Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thanks for stopping by. Today I get to share with you 5 cards made with the Pink and Main Crafty Courtyard kit for September 2019. This kit is called Sweater Weather. A lot of fun fall themed, autumn themed elements in here. And so we're going to jump in with card number 1. We're going to be using the stencil. This is such a pretty stencil. It has leaves all over it. And so I'm bringing in my oxide inks. I have fossilized amber and candied apple. I wanted a real soft background, so I thought fossilized amber would go great as a base coat. So we're just going to cover our background. And then I want to do a little bit of shading with my candied apple. When you blend these two together, it creates a real pretty orange, a real warm orange. And so I wanted to keep it soft, and I thought this would be a great color combo. We're just going to remove our stencil here. And I did spray it with my pixie spray, so it stuck really good. But there's my background. It's so pretty. Now I'm using my double stitched rectangle dies and cutting out a panel that's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to take the yellow cardstock that came in the kit, the yellowish gold, and cut out a small rectangle. I didn't want to hide the beautiful stenciled background, so I just created a big enough rectangle to stamp my sentiment in. And for this card, I chose the sentiment that is so pretty. It says, "Ever so thankful for you." I stamped it with Versamark ink, and then I'm going to go over it with some white embossing powder. Using my heat gun, I'm going to go ahead and melt that. And you can see I stamped it in the upper portion of this small little rectangle. Okay, after that's nice and melted, in the kit this month, there came a little bag of metal charms. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my background panel to my card base. The card base that I'm using is with the white cardstock. And then for my sentiment, I'm going to wrap around the baker's twine that came in with the kit 3 times. And then I'm going to knot it. The reason I'm going to knot it is because of the metal charms that came in the kit. There's a real pretty leaf that's on the larger side, and then 2 little acorns. And I wanted to add both of them. So I'm just knotting it, kind of straightening out my twine a little bit. And then I'm going to thread the leaf and the little acorn through the twine, and then I'm going to tie a bow with it. Okay, I did add foam tape behind my little panel. We're going to place that in the center. And just to secure my my little embellishment here, I'm going to secure it with a piece of foam tape just so it doesn't shift. And then kind of pretty up the twine there, trim the tails. And that completes card 1. A pretty simple card, but I think the leaves just stand for itself. I think it's very pretty. Okay, for card number 2, we're going to use some of the pattern paper. Love this print here. It looks so much like a sweater. I'm going to take a stitched rectangle die and cut out a panel, but I want it at a diagonal. So I'm going to put it diagonally on my 6x6 paper pad. I'm going to flip this panel over, add foam tape behind it, and then this is going to go directly in the center of our white card base. We'll just pop that in the middle. And then I also am going to use one of the orange tags that came with the Crafty Courtyard kit. Although I only want the top portion of it, I trimmed down a piece of white cardstock that it was the same width as the tag. This way I can have a 2-tone tag. I'm just going to use my glue and attach the very top portion to my white piece. We'll just glue that to the very top. And I'm using the grid lines on my mat as a guide to keep it straight. Once that's secured, I'm going to use some more of the pattern paper. There's different colors on here, and I wanted to use 3 colors to cover the seam. I used the blue, the orangish, reddish, and the yellow. I just trimmed them down and put it over the seam. And then for my sentiment for this card, I chose Cozy Greetings. I'm going to stamp this towards the bottom of my panel. So I'm going to bring in my Misty here. and I wanted my sentiment to have two different colors. So I'm going to stamp the greetings first, and I'm going to be using my orange ink. I have to stamp it a few times just because I want a real rich color here. And then I'll remove my greetings, and then I'm going to stamp the word cozy with my red ink. Now after I have this done, there's the little heart that's like a sweater pattern, like a stitched heart. Well, not really a stitch, a woven heart. And I originally was going to put it directly on my tag, and I thought, you know, we'll pop it up. I kind of want to offset it a little bit, so I'm just going to stamp it with green ink on a piece of white cardstock. And then we'll remove this, and then I'm going to use a circle die and cut out my heart with a circle. Okay, now I can offset it wherever I want it. So I want to pop this up with dimensional adhesive, offset it just a little bit, and I think that's going to work out really good. I just popped up my tag, placed it on my card base, and this month's kit came with a ribbon. It came with the rickrack, and it also came with two different types of twine. But for this card, I wanted to bring up the white, since there's a lot of white in the on the bottom area. I brought in some of my own white twine. For a little bit of added sparkle, I'm going to use my Nuvo glitter drops in White Blizzard. I added some to the lines on my tag, and then also originally I was going to do polka dots on my little heart, and decided I'm going to cover the whole thing with sparkle. But that finishes off card number 2. Now for card number 3, we're going to use this pattern paper, and we're going to cut out a little frame with a square die and a circle die. Once we have that cut out, I have a panel here. Now this panel is 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it's going to leave me a little bit of a border on my card base. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the woven heart directly on the pattern paper that we cut out with the circle. And then after I stamp this, I'm going to heat emboss it with white embossing powder. That's why I treated my paper here with my anti-static powder tool. We'll ink it up with Versamark ink and go over it with white embossing powder, and I went ahead and melted it. And after I got that done, I went and took a smaller circle die and just cut out one size smaller. So when I put it on the inside of my circle frame, you could see a little bit of a white border. I'm just kind of lining it up where I want it to go, and we are going to pop up our circle frame with dimensional adhesive. I'm just going to use some foam squares for this. We'll place that on our panel, and then I'm going to take my panel. We're going to put this inside our MISTI and stamp our sentiment. For my sentiment for this card, I wanted a gradient. We're going to use the larger one that says sweater weather is better weather. I'm just centering it underneath my square there, and then I'm going to use 2 different types of ink. I'm going to use an orange ink and then also the red ink. Starting off with the orange ink, I'm going to ink it up, stamp it. I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm going to add a red ink on the lower portion, kind of creating a gradient. And when I did it, it was kind of splotchy. So we're going to just do a repeat, stamp it with the orange ink, and then just go over the very bottom, basically the portion that says is better weather, with the red ink. And I just love the way that looks. And you can see here I trimmed my circle a little bit smaller. Okay, that's going to go in there. We're going to pop it up with some foam tape, but I'm going to go ahead and take my tape runner, add some tape behind here, and I'm attaching it to another sheet of the pattern paper. I'm trimming it down to an A2 size. So I'm trimming it down so it'll fit my entire card front, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. Then I can go ahead and tape this directly on my card base. You can see it fits it beautifully. We'll go ahead and pop up our little heart and place that in the center. And then I thought it needed something else, so I went ahead and stamped and colored in 2 of the leaves from the stamp set. I colored one in with the brown inks and then one in with green inks, and then fussy cut them out. And then I also used the orange and white baker's twine and tied a bow with the little acorns in the little embellishment pack. I'm going to secure them to the leaf stems with a glue dot, and I think that just adds the right amount of sass to it. Okay, card number 4, I colored in 2 of the acorns and just fussy cut them out. The acorns were part of the sweater weather stamp set this month. I also trimmed down a panel here that is about 3/4 inches smaller than my card base all around. And then I trimmed down a panel for that bottom area. Now I wanted to use the sweater stamp image, and so I made sure my panel would be able to fit in my MISTI this way. I'm just going to place it in my MISTI and line it up so that that pattern is barely hitting that white border. We'll pick up our stamp image, and then we're going to stamp this. I chose a dark brown ink for this. I'm going to go over it, stamp it a few times, and I think it looks so neat. Now, for the second layer, I'm going to wipe off my brown ink real fast. I didn't want to make a mess of it. But for this lines up very easy too, by the way, guys. It just lines up beautifully. But I should have used either a darker color, if there is a darker color than that brown, or a brighter color, like maybe an orange, but I wanted to keep it kind of neutral. This color is actually pretty darn close to my cardstock. You could see here. Or even what would look even nicer is heat embossing this layer with white embossing powder, so that white would trail up a little bit. I think that would look fantastic. Okay, after I stamped the second portion, it's there, it's subtle. I think in the pictures you'll be able to pick it up. And if you want to see close-up pictures of each one of my projects, guys, go ahead and click on my blog down below. There's still shots close-up, and then 2 of each picture on my blog if you guys want to check it out. Okay, we're going to use the Rick Rack, but before I add that second piece, I want to make sure I have the spacing right. So I stamped the sentiment that says Autumn Blessings with that same brown ink, and then I'm going to use score tape and just go ahead and add my second layer of my Rick Rack. I'm extending it outside of my panel. This way, when I add my Rick Rack, I can just lay it on top, and then this way the back side's sticky, and I can just fold it over on the back side, and it's nice and tidy. I did add foam tape behind my back panel, and then this is going to go in the center of a card base. I'm going to go ahead and add my acorns, and I did stamp a green leaf. I had to throw a color in there, so I used my green Copic markers to color in that leaf and just fussy cut it out. It was the rounder leaf in the stamp set. But I'm using the sequins in this month's Crafty Courtyard kit. Added a few here and there. And then we are going to go over the tops of our acorn with our Morning Dew. This will dry clear, almost like a glossy accents. But that finishes off card number 4. Okay, card number 5, I created a frame. And the frame size is just a little bit larger than the width of the sweater stamp image here. I thought it'd be fun to do a watermark on the cardstock. The cardstock that I'm using came with this month's kit. I just trimmed it down to a panel, a frame with it using 2-stitched rectangle dies. I need to grab a piece of post-it tape to block off that bottom edge, and then this way I can stamp that last area. Just adds a little extra something. Now when I stamped the last area, you can see there's a little blotch, but I think I can get away with coloring, filling that in with some leaves. I added foam tape behind my frame, and I'm going to go ahead and add this to the center of my card base, making sure that the area where I stamped, I didn't stamp actually, is in that bottom right corner. Now I'm going to I put my frame directly on my card base. Now I'm going to add my sentiment For this card, I chose the one that says, "The leaves are falling and autumn is calling." I'm going to place this whole card base inside of my Misty, and then we're going to stamp with that red ink. We'll stamp it a few times to make sure our image is nice and crisp. And you can see I colored in quite a few leaves, one of each one of them that was in the stamp set, or one or two. And I colored them in with some fall colors, and I'm just arranging them in that bottom right corner, and then kind of trailing up a little bit towards the sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and add a few of the sequins, and I'll use my glue to secure those down. And then for a little bit of sparkle, I'm going to go over the spine of each one of my leaves with my White Blizzard glitter drops. And then that completes card number 5. This month's kit was so fun. If you guys, I did an unboxing with it, guys. If you want to check out what's in the Crafty Courtyard kit, I'll link the unboxing at the end of this video. But thank you so much for joining me. It's a fantastic kit. If you're interested in it, I'll leave links down below. But I had so much fun with it. It's such a unique kit, and I love that sweater pattern. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.